live? Oh, we're live. If you click, we're live. Great.
You need to post the new link.
Okay, cool.
Hello. Are we live?
I think so. Let's see if anybody writes something.
But it's the new link, right, for the streaming, right, Kuba?
Yeah, but have you clicked go live?
Yeah.
Oh, we're live.
We're live.
We're
Yeah.
live.
Okay.
Yeah, you're live.
Hi there, people out in the digital world.
Oh, we're live. We're live.
We're totally live.
Yeah.
Let's wait for that feedback loop. We see, and yes, we are here.
Oh, yeah.
Huzzah. Hello, I'm Jeff Richard.
Hi, I'm Adam. And we have some people, yeah, on chat.
So forgive me, we're all a little bit confused from all the technical chaos necessary to get this up and running. I just watch this here. There's like people saying we see and hear people here. Okay. Well, anyways, Adam and I are here to talk to you all and answer your questions involving the Horror on the Orient Express board game. Maybe I should introduce myself. So I'm Jeff Richard. I'm the chair and creative director of Chaosium. We're the publisher of the board game, and I've been playing role-playing games since the late 1970s, and I have been working at Chaosium since 2015. And before that, I was working with Greg Stafford, who was the founder of Chaosium since, I don't know, some point in the late 1990s. So I've been around doing this for a long time, and we are so pleased and excited about, the performance of this game. And we got, less than 48 hours left.
Yep, exactly. That's how it looks like now. And yeah, and we have the co-designer Gołąb here. Hi.
Well, hello.
Do you want me to lead? Yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry for me. We've had so much confusion here that we're all a little bit stunned here, but I assume the format here is for us to sit around and talk about the creation of the game and the issues related to taking a RPG and translating it into a board game format and getting stories into board games. And so, as maybe everybody, I assume everybody knows, this process started with a discussion with us and the board game team about how to take the classic RPG story, tabletop RPG story, Horror on the Orient Express, which is a gigantic role-playing game it takes the characters all the way from Paris across Europe through the Dreamlands and eventually ends up in Istanbul and to a grand denouement that is traditionally played over dozens, maybe even scores of sessions that most people take over a year to finish. And how do we take that and take that experience and distill it into a 90 to 120 minute board game, while still keeping the feel of the board game, right?
Yeah, and what you said here is, I think, the most important thing, because when you try to adapt different medium into a board game, you cannot take the same tools, the same method to make it alive, because first of all we have to create a good board game, because Nobody will be interested in something that it's not good as a board game.
Yeah, we
And-
market it as a board game.
Yes.
Oh, it
it
is a
should
board
be.
game. Come on, guys.
So it should be that at first and frontmost.
Yeah, so this is the first thing, and the second idea is to take the original work and try to extract the spirit of that that work, make our board game unique, and unique in exactly the same way as the RPG campaign was unique. So we try to figure out what is most important about that original work, and try to adapt that part into a board game and build all the board game around it. So yeah, this was our vision, I think.
Absolutely, and a big part of it, early on was discussions about what are the key themes, the key beats of the RPG. Part of it is setting. Being on this iconic Orient Express train. How do we work that into the board game? We have the downward spiral that is so constant in Call of Cthulhu, where it becomes increasingly more difficult to be able to deal with the situation. How do you roll cultists into this? And in the Orient on the Orient Express, one of the most awesome bits is how to work Count Fenelek into the vampire into the story. And it's an amazing creative challenge to take something that was designed for a medium that is radically different from board games and turn it into a board game experience that can be played in 90 to 120 minutes, but still has all those key beats and key story elements where it's really clear you're getting that excitement, enthusiasm for that you got in the RPG. And I'll say this is, I wasn't on the design team of the board game, but man, I wish I was, because these guys did a fantastic job with that. So,
the most important, the first part, and you told about that, was to take the RPG, not even the campaign itself, but Call of Cthulhu RPG, because we have lots of games that are connected with the Cthulhu mythology and all the stuff, but most of them are focused around very typical for a board game idea that we are the heroes and we have some evil monsters to kill. Of course, we have different games. Sometimes we even play the evil side that are fighting with each other. But I'm a RPG player, and for me, what is most important about RPG is the interaction with the different people, different NPCs, and it's not about walking and killing everybody there. It's more about talking with different people, and we are investigators, not the barbarians with big two-handed swords that try to kill everything and gain experience and treasures. So I think this was the most important part when we start, because of course we have some obvious ideas, like we need a train because this game is about train. And to be honest, the train, in my opinion, is one of the main character even in this campaign. It's not only the place; it's something more. And
it's like the city in Sex and the City.
Oh yeah. Oh, no, very much very much like it. But you had said earlier about other RPGs and board games, and I think, in thinking about it, so most role playing games are a power progression as we go up and become more and more competent at dealing with mightier and mightier foes. Whereas Call of Cthulhu is always sure, we may get some knowledge or some spells or some magical artifacts that they're able to solve it, but they actually obtaining these things always actually make us lower down on the overall downward spout. And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, maybe that actually works better in a board game environment, because there's so many, you have to make a whole lot of character choice of how I'm going to deal with it. Am I going to deal with this short-term problem and lose sanity or lose competence on the short run and survive, or not? And I don't know what you guys think about that. I mean, I think in some ways there's something that better translates to board games out of Call of Cthulhu than power progression.
Yeah, it's totally easier to balance, because you have the cost of getting more powerful. Yeah, you gain power, you gain knowledge, but you lose your sanity. In one way, you are closer to win when we talk about the board game, but on the other way, you also are closer to lose the game because of the losing the sanity. And yeah, I think it works really well in a board game, because power level can be problematic in a games,
especially in a cooperative game, which the Orient Express is, since when you have a ramping up power levels, as Adam said, like players getting stronger and stronger. This is great for competitive games where we just race, and who gets the fastest, the strongest, they easily win by overpowering opponents, which would be less than exciting story when done against the game itself, because you don't want to run against a machine just on its own.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. But the weird thing is that if we think about a role-playing game, a tabletop role-playing game, as a game experience, we're dealing with something that in some ways has a lot of correspondence with a cooperative board game, right? The players are all, obviously we've all played in games where there've been backstabby weasel players, but we've all given justice to them. In general, the players try to cooperate to deal with whatever obstacles are coming up in the story and whatnot, which is very similar to in a cooperative board game. Whereas nonetheless, I think I agree with you, the power progression games don't work. They have big problems in cooperative games. It makes me wonder, actually, on RPG design, whether we should be looking a little more carefully at cooperative board games for story structure.
Yeah, sure. And Call of Cthulhu is not a big problem for the power level, but I run many campaigns in different settings, more fantasy settings, for example. And it was a problem when you have player characters that can easily fight with whole army or something like this. There is not enough stake to fight for on some level. There is you cannot find another bigger challenge, because of course everybody knows that from, I don't know, some TV series and things like that there is a bigger evil after the lesser evil you just won, and it's never end. But it's not so exciting, in my opinion, when it gets too long. Yeah, because it gets exactly the same and the same. Just change the name of the main foe, and that's all.
Oh yeah, I actually know a really popular show that's run into that problem. It's called James Bond. And some 10 episodes ago, they went for The World Is Not Enough, and they went further on. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Hey, Adam, I know you play a lot of role-playing games, and I'm just curious what you would throw down as a couple of the ones that you find most interesting as a player and or as a GM, and also as a game designer. And I'm happy to kind of go around Robin because I'm kind of curious what you guys' answers would be on that. And it's okay, just because I'm the publisher of, by the way, let me remind everybody watching this, I'm the publisher of Call of Cthulhu, RuneQuest, and Pendragon. I expect those games to be, no, don't worry about that.
Please click and subscribe to all the...
Yes, please click and subscribe.
Oh yeah, somewhere here, yeah.
To be honest, when one of my favorite RPG is Deadlands, the old edition of Deadlands. When we talk about mechanic and setting, how they fits together, because this was the first game used the deck of cards, used the poker chips, and all that stuff, and it works really really well. It's not very popular game, especially in Poland. But I'm a little fan of American history of Wild West, not only the Western and movies, but the real history. And I think the design of this game was really interesting. But Call of Cthulhu was always in my top 3, I think, games, and also because of the mechanics, because the basic system, I think it's very simple from one hand, but also very straightforward. You can see what you get. You have percentage on the skills, and that's exactly what you will have in other systems, but sometimes they use different numbers, because when you roll d20, it's also some probabilities and some chances, and here it's just clear for everybody. And I love the experience system. I mean that you don't have any experience point, but you just roll and check if you learn something new, and you learn only if you use something. And of course, better when you are better in something, it's harder to learn it more, to master that skill. So yeah.
Oh yeah, the learning by doing. It's always been one of my favorite things in all the BRP games. And wait, but that's only 2. You said you had a top 3. Come on, what was the 3?
Oh yeah, but the third one is mostly because it was one of the first system I ever play, and it was Warhammer First Edition. So it's mostly nostalgic, because from the game design perspective, I don't think it was very good, but I play hundreds of hours in this setting. So I just like it very much because of that nostalgic feeling I have.
Yeah, and how about you, Gołąb? Do you have a top 3?
I wouldn't say top 3, because I'm like a weird creature when it comes to the RPGs. There are two of my favorite styles of playing RPGs. It's either this very hardcore min-maxing, terrible style of just optimizing stuff, just looking through rule books and getting your.
Okay, now I've secretly mentally picked one of those. Which game you have? Now I'm curious whether your answer is what's.
The top one would be totally the Epic Adventures for Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
Which is really riddled with loopholes and everything, which makes for a terrible game when you play it, like let's say, as intended. but a great mathematical fun when you try to break the system.
So you play the puzzle game. It's not
Oh yeah, I'm playing puzzle game
RPG.
totally. Yeah, like doing stuff like, I don't know, swimming upwards a waterfall or some other stuff. It's just the weird things that.
You're sounding like my teenage son when he plays video games. All he's interested about doing is, how do I break the game to swim up the waterfall.
Yeah, and on the other hand, the system I had actually the most fun with was the Foo RPG, like Freedom Universal RPG, the one when you just roll a d6 die for everything, and I would say it's the closest to stand-up comedy. So when you roll the die, there are 6 options. There is no, and you're getting some worse result. Just no, but, and some positive spin. Yes, but. So yes, you managed, but you get a negative spin. Yes, and yes, and, which is the classic stand-up comedy. Yes, and you just follow from that, and this just flows really freeform without any. I played it without any character cards or anything. It was just to help us navigate the randomness of the story. So this was.
Oh yeah, those sorts of storytelling rules light games can be an absolute blast. I mean, I always find with them the difficulty bit about as a designer is if I want other people to play to play in the game, you have to make sure that they're already working with the tropes of the setting.
Oh
right?
yeah, very much.
So you can't do a setting. You can't do a setting that puts the characters in a world, the players in a world that they don't understand, because you kind of need to know the tropes of the setting well enough to be able to figure out, well, what does no mean? What is no?
Yeah, this is very, very difficult also to run just to make the adventure. So I had the luck to play with one of the best Polish gamekeepers. So it was a blast, but I could really imagine having it with, like, even me running the game would not be that fun for most of the players.
Oh, well, but although I have to say, tears are coming down my eyes that you didn't, in neither of your 2 options did you mention Call of Cthulhu, but I'll forgive you for that, man. No, I myself, I'm very biased, and I greatly enjoy BRP. BRP, that's basic role playing to people that aren't familiar with it, and that's the engine behind Call of Cthulhu and RuneQuest and Pendragon. That for me has always been my favorite to work with.
So for that I'll plunge into darkness and I go to my bookshelf, which is full of comics, and there's exactly one RPG book there.
Yeah, the RPG Game Designer Bible, the big gold book.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always liked, for the same reason that Adam mentioned, I've always liked the ability, things are expressed in percentiles. So when I'm a player or a GM and I'm understanding, well, okay, what's my likelihood of a successful option here? Or just what is the likelihood of whatever it is? Having expressed in percentile dice is about as intuitive as you can have. And I've always liked that it makes it, and again, this is maybe, more of a TTRPG obsession, that interaction between the mechanics and the setting and the theme of the game, right? So you've had to deal with that though on this board game is how do we use the game mechanics in order to incentivize interaction with the story?
Yeah, I think there is a big difference here between RPGs and board games, because in RPGs your main tool to create the story is language. You are talking to get to people imagination and let them play. And to be honest, sometimes mechanic is only for it have
To help
not
navigate the
be-
tropes, as you said.
yeah, or
like-
not disturb. And for this, for example, basic RPG is probably one of the best. I always choose that when I want to run one session story to other people and something like this. It was great because it fits. But when you talk about board game, you don't use language as much because people don't want to play a board game to read a lot of text because those people will go for tabletop RPG or for a book or something like this. Here, everything is about how your choices through the mechanics change the game. And of course, it's also more important the winning and losing condition. It's not so important in tabletop RPG because we can have great story even if my character die, and it can be really, really fun. In a board game, you probably still want to win a little more than to lose, and you play that way. So we have to create space for that.
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing I was thinking about in it, it gets to that whole that the currency in board games is traditionally it's a limited resource, right? That's our currency of interaction. Whereas in our tabletop RPG, our currency is words.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the reasons that almost all tabletop RPGs have to have a game master. It has to have an additional person playing the game that's not playing the game. They're playing, or more precisely, they're playing the game because the GM is playing the game, but they're playing a completely different game.
Exactly. Yeah.
Than all of the other players who have a character. It's the other players have characters. And the GM plays the entire rest of the cosmos except for the players. And I long ago I wondered if it would be possible to do a board game of a sort where it is individuals against the cosmos. Right. And I gave up. I gave up on that. But, the more I think about that, the more I think, that's the only one where you're going to have that weird players and game masters around a table experience.
Yeah. So there's one thing the game master has that the board game is unable to emulate. It's empathy. It's being able
some of them has that.
Oh yeah. It's being able to see players' reactions and to steer the game based on this. So for me, the best part of having a keeper or game master is a person that looks at me, and when I'm doing like, no, maybe no, they're like, oh yeah, this is not the way the adventure should go, or I should double down and build on that very feeling. Because if they stay in this very moment, it's going to be a terrible story for both of us, because I'm not going to get interested and I'm going to get disappointed. So either double down, force me on the negative feelings, which could be good. It could go really bad, but it could go a real interesting design arc. But working with the player, looking at the player, which is a board game is totally unable to do.
No, absolutely. But one thing that you guys have managed to pull off is that one of the neat things in a role-playing game is, you have your role-playing game and it can continue and expand easily. So Pigeon, why don't you talk about doing these campaign expansions and how you pulled these in? See how clever I wove that.
Oh, now that's a smooth segue, yeah. So we're doing the campaign expansion for the board game. We have already put down a lot of work, but it is not done yet. So we're trying to both, let's say, hide the spoilers, but more important, not promise anything that we're not 100% sure that we put in the box, because people are like, and they're right to do that, expecting that what we said will be there. So I'll be talking about what we already have and what's the general structure we have. And so the idea is that the base game of Horror on the Orient Express goes through let's say a single dream in the Dreamlands. And we all played it, so we know that it is a proper, almost 2 hours long game with all the consequences and everything. But there is this great need for both expanded narrative and for more of the consequences to reach beyond the just single train run. So what we did was create a 5-scenario campaign, which allows us to bring more of the external narrative, as in bring some extra text that would be read in between, like I would say, like intermissions. Like you start with some sort of text, like with a background story, what happens there. At the very beginning, the one thing that people already know from the campaign is the famous Bohemian detective joins the crew, the Ambrożan Draczek, and we're able to build on the character because we can reach beyond the story and have the character develop based on what we did, and what's more important, have the consequences split into different pathways. And for what I've learned the most in what makes the game, like the choices matter, is the paths not taken. So for a choice to matter, especially in a scenario setting, in a campaign setting, every choice we make, whether we help Ambroż or we don't help him, or we work with him, against him, some way, it should be possible, and it is possible, it will be possible, for the game to go the other way and to see the consequences of both ways, but see the consequences as in you could have seen them, but since you chose the other way, you will not. And all the paths not taken, the, let's say, lost content, I would say, is the thing that makes the story the most interesting and the most immersive, as in the consequences are real.
Yes.
And so the general structure will be a intermission based on the location where we start. So it would be, you might have some hints on the box, like Venice. You can see the Rialto Bridge on the box. And in the intermissions, there will be like some small adventure. It will be more text heavy, more consequences heavy, and more like the choices will be more verbatim. And then you'll be going for a full gameplay of Horror on the Orient Express with gameplay twists. And don't get me wrong,
the gameplay twists are created by the decisions taken or not taken, right?
Yes, and
yeah.
So yes, they're created. Like there will be some, let's say, scaffolding on which we'll be building this. So like there is the idea, I don't know, that there is a new clue set coming in one of the scenarios, and this clue set might be different, and the puzzle might be different or not, based on what were our choices and what were the results of our previous games. So I don't know. Let's make a fictional example, totally disconnected from what's happening in the campaign. So for example, let's say the cultists grew stronger, and maybe in the clue set there will be more of the occult clues. There will be a greater chance for the cultists to be there. So while this is a tiny change in how the game plays this thing, having a plethora of them happening here and there, and also a major mechanism, small change, like there'll be like Ambrożan Draczek joining, there'll be VIP passengers happening, probably somewhere in the campaign. So depending on which of them are happy and which of them are still alive at the end of the train ride, will be a tremendous change. And so knowing that you have to keep an eye on them, you'll be altering your both like strategical choices and your personal choices, pushing the game towards different narratives.
Well, and I have to say that's a wonderful way of capturing the dynamic that happens in a tabletop role playing game. That's that to me that's just very exciting to be able to play around with, because storylines in an RPG make me think there was a I'm going to be very very esoteric here for a moment. There's an Argentinian writer that I'm a big fan of, Borges, and he wrote a story. Yeah. He wrote a story called "The Garden of Forking Paths," which is precisely this sort of dynamic of understanding the world in the sense of the paths not taken, and that you have this branching network of possibilities, which of course also means that you can do it over and over and over again, because each time you take a different path, you end up with a radically different experience.
Yeah, exactly. And what is important, in a tabletop RPG, you never can be sure that the different paths were true, to be honest, because when you ask players, do you choose left or right door?
They could easily go the same way. Oh, big time.
Yeah, it's the old easy trick, of course, when you are a game master sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
You want something, and they have no idea if there was a different path, or, to be honest, there wasn't. And it's also, this is not important part for the tabletop RPG, because it's more about story, and
the story is personalized in the tabletop RPG.
Yeah, and there is also, I think, one theoretical guy who wrote about choices and the story, and he wrote that when you have a lot of choices, the story will suffer always, because there is one best story somewhere, and when you give people choices, they probably will not always choose the best one. But giving people real choice makes something more a game, not a story, and you have different kind of satisfaction, because you feel that your choices really matters in a game. And
so that actually, Adam, the way you put that kind of reminds me about why and how Chaosium itself got founded as a company. So, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard this story here, but Greg Stafford. So Greg Stafford was an aspiring, in the late 60s, early 70s, was an aspiring fantasy writer, going through a period where fantasy fiction was not particularly financially successful, right? This is after this is some years after kind of the height of Moorcock. Tolkien was still, was still semi underground. Tolkien's showing up occasionally in Led Zeppelin lyrics, but it's not really in mass consciousness yet. And so, Greg was getting frustrated by how difficult it was to get fantasy stories published. So he decided to create a game, not a role-playing game, a war game. And what the idea is that every time you played this war game, you would create the history of this fantasy setting over again. And maybe which empire wins and who rises and what great heroic battles happen in this and who are the great heroes of the age could be different in every playing of the game. So every retelling of the story. And so at least from Chaosium's perspective, there's always been this strong link between board games as a story creation medium and stories, if that makes any sense. There is that with Horror on the Orient Express, every time you play it, we're generating a new horror story.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And
It's absolutely fantastic. You know, that's just fantastic. I know Greg would be pleased as punch with this, and it's to me, it's one of the really exciting things about board games and tabletop is that we're giving this we create these platforms by which the players of the game are allowed to create new narratives, and they create new narratives every time.
Yeah, that's great tool, to be honest. And what we use in a board game is what people sometimes call emergent narrative. Yeah, so the narrative comes not from texts but from gameplay, from what
actually happens, not what we tell that happens, but what actually happens.
Yeah, the whole do don't tell.
Yeah.
Right. So, do you have a question there? No. Okay. Okay. I have my assistant here writing down notes here. Very talented. But yeah, that's actually it. This is an interesting one. It's one that I think we all have experience in. Is how do you deal with the design of more than one game in the same time period, especially if those games are very radically different in terms of the experience, and how do you guys deal with it? I've got my own ways of dealing with it, but I'm curious for you guys. How do you manage that?
Oh, for me, it's the only way, because when you focus on designing only one game at the same time, you stuck. In some points. It's not like thinking about something give you solution, and we know that from real life. It's not like, oh, I have problem and now I start thinking about that and it will bring me a solution each time, depending how many hours I will think about that. It's not how creative work is done, in my opinion. And changing the projects, juggling them is really helpful, because it's totally different games with different perspective, with different experience. And when I free my head from, for example, thinking about Aurora on the Orient Express when I'm creating Nemesis, it helps me quite often to find solution for the horror on the Orient Express, not for the Nemesis. So I always try to work on a couple of games at the same time, and it's like 5 to 7 games at the moment, and that's quite normal number for me. And to be honest, I cannot imagine how the different way that I'm for example, for 2 years focused only on one game. It will be crazy. I will lose sanity probably.
How about you, Pigeon?
So I'm not as prolific as Adam is. So I'm working at 5 games tops at the time. And I would say that even my games diverge in their style even further than Adam's do, because the two big projects I'm working on now, the major ones, one is a super secret game that I'm not able to tell much about, but is a very calm, almost mechanicless Zen style game. And the other one is a solo mechanical puzzle with like actual lock picking and everything in it. So like very physical puzzle game. So these are like the furthest you can go from doing a board game while staying within the genre of being a game designer.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I think the most different systems that I've worked on simultaneously from a tabletop perspective is maybe 3 simultaneously. And the reason being is that with the, I think this is one of the big difference between RPGs and board games is there's the mechanical elements of the game design, right? You got all of that, which that is very much in common with board games. And then usually we're creating this whole setting, this whole complex system of stories. And it a way of thinking about it is how many simultaneous novels can you write at the same time?
Oh,
we should ask Brandon Sanderson about that, I think, because
that guy's just a machine. I actually think he's invented cloning technology to be able. I think there's actually
something like this.
There's a room with Brandon Sanderson's in laboratory, in tanks. Yeah. They got it hooked up, and when he needs more bandwidth, he just presses a button, and another Brandon Sanderson comes out of the tank, because that is just inhuman.
That's true. That's true. But to be honest, I agree about tabletop RPGs, because I try to create my own, and I start years ago. It's like I don't know, 20 years when I start this, and it's not even close to be finished. And I cannot imagine to doing 2 tabletop RPGs at the same time, 2 systems. It's much bigger because of the world creation and all that stuff. It's and you can go into some details, and then after months of work, you just realize that nobody will read that. I go for linguistic stuff. I try to explain why different language are on the different continents in my world and stuff like this. And after 5 months, one of my friends looked at this and said, "Okay, but you are not writing scientific work. Nobody will read that. That's crazy. Don't do that." And so I cannot imagine making even 1 tabletop RPG, but more than that, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm glad you brought up the linguistics bit about that. I think that's actually something, the fascination with game design and creation of languages, or creation of that level. I think I think that's Professor Tolkien's influence on all of us. That I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid and I first started reading, I first read the Lord of the Rings saga. I was most entertained by the appendixes, and tried to master Quenya and the dwarvish runes and the little glossary of elements of the Elvish languages, and so even though you don't use it, you don't even need that to make any sense out of the story. It's still fucking awesome, it adds. And this kind of gets into the difficulties of world building. Having a whole lot of depth to a setting that no one will ever use is like having deep foundations when you're building a house, right? You'll never see it. You're never going to go and deal with the foundations, but it means it's securely anchored. Even if it never shows up at all, the creator, at least, you can use that to create consistency and some of the appearance of depth in the setting. But I guess I think that's right. That's why you've been working on this for 20 years and it's still not finished.
Yeah, but what you have told also, it's also about books and movies and all that stuff, because reader will never know about that background, that research that is not in the book, but we can feel it when we read book like this. We feel that it's more, and somebody think about that. It's awesome, and I agree totally about Tolkien that the world creation and how he get things from different mythologies and stories and make them fit together with his own world was crazy. And,
oh yeah, I personally, so I actually personally think that again, this is kind of leaning more into tabletop design. I think you end up, if you look at most good settings and game books, I suspect what you're seeing is kind of 10% of what was built for it, and there's almost always this huge amount of deep background that never makes it into the book itself, but you can feel its presence. Hey, so I got a totally unrelated goofy question, and this goes from my own experiences playing Hoto, which is absolute fun, absolutely a blast. I've still not managed to win the game. How many times have you guys lost playing it?
Lost. Okay.
Quite a few.
Today we win again.
Today we won, yeah.
Yeah.
Today we won it. We played the game today and we won it.
Yeah.
Curse you.
And
Yeah,
on the proper difficulty setting.
on the proper difficulty, but still it wasn't easy. The last 3 turns was.
Oh, it was a close call. Call.
And that's for me. That part is important because, of course, it will be hard to me or probably to go on to play after the release with other people, because we know the game pretty well and there is a lot of testing still before us. But when I play with Gołąb and now also with our developer Sasha, who also know the game, it's fun. It's still fun. We still have discussion around the table. What is the best move, and sometimes it's on a very meta level, but it's super fun.
Oh well, I hope to get to the point where I win most of the time. I hope to. Unfortunately, I'm a board gamer who makes their decisions in a lot of board games based on what seems to be the most fun.
Oh yeah.
Necessarily the best way to.
Yeah, Gołąb do the same, which sometimes make me crazy.
Come on, I made us win today. I removed the last car, which was crucial.
It was. That's true. That part is true. But yeah, I see that when Gołąb was playing, that he have very similar approach, I think. But to be honest, the person who was very close to win because when people play the first time the Horror on the Orient Express, we don't want them to win easily. It's not our goal, because it will be boring for them when you play a cooperative game, and it's very easy for you. You win the first,
and also it's anticlimactic to win. Like there is this terrible crisis, and you're trying to manage the evil cultist and everything, and you just come from the first person from the street, and you're like, yeah, done.
I got it handled.
Yeah.
But the person who was closest to do that was one 11 years old boy in the Spiel, at the Spiel in Essen. He was playing with his parents, and he was totally alpha player. He just ordered them to do this or do that with their characters, and it's not easy to alpha playing this game because your character is a lot of choices enough, and when you try to tell people what their choices should be, it's really hard. But it was one of the best gameplay I saw in terms of how close he was to win the game, and it was really nice for me to see that.
But wait, Adam, you said how close he was to win the game, but he didn't win.
Oh no!
Let's be serious.
So he did a great job, but at the end of the day, the game did beat the 11-year-old.
Yeah. We put another line on our walls and things like that.
Oh, so how about you, Pigeon? Have you ever thought about designing your own tabletop RPG?
So no.
Until that moment.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is sort of simple and complex at once. Because for what I would do, and I mean, I kind of thought about it, but then I thought about thinking about it, and I would just approach it as two separate stuff, designing a real smooth gameplay mechanism, not taking care and not thinking about the world building and anything, and then I would fail miserably at world building.
Yeah, that is actually the hardest part, because it's kind in some ways it's the flip of the board games. And in a board game, it is incredibly important that rules mechanic and that the mechanical design really works, because it's going to get really stress test, and there's no GM that can go
Who will help it go smooth? Yeah,
exactly. So that's gotta be. There's no room for error on a board game rule side.
Oh, on that, I want to circle back and reconnect with the previous topic of linguistics. There is one big thing that is still ahead of us in terms of the game. We will be building an actual game language for the game, but not Tolkien style, not what Adam did with his tabletop RPG game language. It's the language of the game components, on how they communicate stuff with to people. And this is a thing where we'll for sure be writing a proper dictionary for everyone, so that both will use the words consistently, use the same verbs for the same things, everything. So it's a work that combines both the mechanical part of really fixating on the small parts and the mechanism working, and the linguistics, for it to be as close to the natural language as we can, because people will be working on the, as you said, on the tropes and everything, on the assumptions that when we say the word remove, like we have a problem now with the word remove, because we use it in two ways. There is remove as in remove from the game, and the remove as in remove essence from portals. And even though it's every single time it's very obvious which type of remove you are about to use, I'm still thinking about using another verb for either of them, just to help, like to ease the situation for players. So this is one thing. The other thing, like this is the stamina and sanity. So sanity obviously is sanity, we know that, but we also have stamina, which have the same, like I would say, mouthfeel that sanity has. There's like the number of syllables, there's the repeating letters, there's the pacing of the word is similar, and people not very often, but tend to just mistake one for the other. Not logically, they know what they want, they're thinking about, but they say the other word, which brings the communication down.
And especially if you jump from system to system,
yeah,
easily. But you know, thinking about this is I think part of the reason for this linguistic dissonance in how we talk about mechanics. I think some of that is also the IP, copyright, patent, the effort to try to protect. Hey, I've got this cool, you know, what in collectible card games,
topping in Magic the Gathering.
Exactly.
For a long time.
And it's going out. It was so much patented that everyone started using exhausting just because the other one was patented, and now the prevalent way of topping things is exhausting them. And people say like, topping is called exhausting in this game, or exhausting is called topping, and they use the word interchangeably. But now it's way more popular for board games to exhaust stuff than to top it for something.
And it also denies the tapping to be the word of choice throughout it, because of the difficulties of using that for quite some while. Yeah, I mean, you see this. It's a problem from It's a problem in board games. It's a problem in RPGs. It's a problem, how do we describe what we're doing? And I suspect board games will come to a consensus quicker than RPGs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, in my opinion, is very similar to law creation and law linguistic, because you have to be very precise, because you have rules and all that stuff, and everybody
is trying to break them and bend them.
Yeah, and you need definitions, but still the words you use have to be as close to the natural language as it can be, because if it's far from that, people will get confused, and that's the worst thing that can happen. And this is not easy. And Gołąb have idea.
Oh, I have a great story here, actually. When we were building the narrative for the Dreamlands and working with the narrative that's brought by the Horror on the Orient Express, the campaign, we were working with nightmares attacking the train. They were coming from around. They're like, we're in the Dreamlands, so the worst thing that happened is like the nightmare coming on you and attacking you. And then after plenty playtests, we noticed that players use the word monsters for the nightmares. Like these are the plastic minis that they're attacking the train. These are called monsters in all the game. And no matter how many times we said nightmares, we wrote in the rulebook nightmares and everything, people were like, yeah, the monsters attack, the green monster, red monster, blue monster.
Yeah.
And after some time, we realized that even the two of us are using the word monster to describe the nightmares. So we moved on from nightmares, and now it's called monsters because they're actually monsters, and there's no need to push this. This is the thing about the show not tell thing. We're trying to push a fake narrative through using a word of choice, even though it didn't fit what people were seeing. So now a big part of the tests also is looking at what people feel and just trying to match what we bring to the table with what people feel.
Oh, and that is such an incredible thing, an important thing, because you got to make sure that the language you're using in the game is the language they're using to play the game.
Oh yeah.
Or you create a disconnect, which either ends up with people having trouble using the game, or it creates a learning barrier to getting into the game. I got one more question here that got handed to me by my studio audience out here in Ypsilanti. I'm here in the amazingly named Ypsilanti, Michigan. That's just fun to say. I feel like some old talk show host on U.S. television. My studio audience in Ypsilanti want to know. Do you guys already know who is the new exclusive investigator?
Yes, we know.
Yes, we do.
Don't tell. Oh,
actually, yeah. Actually, it's a fun story. Because I was tallying the votes for from the comments. There were 703 comments under the update, out of which 674 were the votes.
Wow.
And at the first time I wrote a quite smart script to just comb through all the comments, pick them all, check for the proper words, for the everything, and when W's only send me the W's results to check. And I tallied everything, and I got a tie between the merchant and the painter. So I double-checked the script, and then I went one by hand through all the votes, looking for any problems, any typos, anything. So to really go with what people really wanted. And they were like, someone wrote merchant instead of merchant. So a script wouldn't pick it.
We cannot say who won, but yeah, there was a tie. Gołąb already told that. And even just after we start the voting, it was very close. It was like 30% 35, 33, and 30 and 28%, something like this, after a couple of hours. And to be honest, I see many campaigns with the voting system, and there is a trick. I can tell that because as everybody know, we are waiting for the result to start. People to make the miniature, the scalp, and all the stuff, and we need that result to let them work. And often, in many cases, there is and people know that because it can be seen that after 3 hours, we probably with a lot of there is a lot of chance that we already know who won, because we have 60% on one option and 25 on other and 15 on the third. Here, for me, it was first voting I ever seen in the crowdfunding. That was so close after first voting. So it was crazy.
I think you were describing Vampire 1, 2, and 3. I mean, that one.
For example, it was, and what was funny, we have different. We bet on different one first because of course there are many conversations between us, and we do some voting inside who we think will win. And when we talk about Vampire, it wasn't obvious for us, but it was obvious for people. So
Oh yeah. Well, we've all been.
So after this very smooth non-response.
Well, no. Gołąb, you
because wait for it. I've retallied the votes, and I know who won, and I won't be spoiling that yet.
Okay. I was going to say the other answer is just a simple. You look at the camera and you say yes, and then you annoy everybody with a non-response.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. We've been chatting along for a little bit over an hour. And I apologize for the late start we had due to our technical difficulties. But is there anything, Adam or Pigeon, do you guys want to throw into this for any final thoughts for our conversation? Oh, what's that?
Oh, great question. Thank you for asking.
That?
So I got this one straight from the factory. We're trying we're prototyping a new physical quality for clue tokens, because these are super crucial to be, I would say, the first thing, indestructible, but the second thing, indistinguishable, because if I knew that the blood red fez is this token because it has a smear or I don't know anything, it would spoil the fun for me. So for the last 2 days, day and night, I was with my dirty hands eating food, eating chips. I was fondling the tokens, putting them in my pocket with my keys, with my phone, sitting on them when riding the car, everything. And
I've already heard you have not left the apartment in 2 weeks. So
yeah. So no, actually I had. No. I mean, actually, I had to go for these components by car the day before yesterday. So
those are great.
So here's the camera, and here's me with so many eyes. So these look really good. These are intact. You can see they're really straight and smooth. I should have, because I set aside one of them. Yeah, in the other room. So I set aside one of them. Without being touched, so I want to compare one that was not touched ever from the production and ones that were fondled. But these look crisp. So I'm very happy with the result, and I'm very happy that we managed to have such a good quality on these. And I'm very happy to work with other components to achieve the same quality for everything, that it fits. That it fits the quality of the game and it fits the user experience that we need to bring.
Oh well, they look absolutely fantastic, and you know when you scatter them all around there in front of your face, you really look like you're some sort of monstrosity out of the Dreamlands, a monster, not a nightmare.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
nice one.
How about you, Adam? Anything else you want to add?
You know, to be honest, I'm now working on some characters and all that stuff to check how much design space we have and how fresh we can be with those new characters. As Gołąb said, we know who won, so now I have in my head many ideas on that character that will be revealed tomorrow, I think. But for now, it's mostly waiting for the questionnaires from Tabletop Simulator, and I cannot wait the end of the campaign when we can jump into those answers and look on the numbers and all the feedback from people, because this will start the next phase of development when we will have to look at everything again and again and check, okay, maybe this skill wasn't good enough, or people don't take that skill or use that skill because it was too long, because this also sometimes happens. And I'm really curious what we find there after the campaign, and yeah, I'm waiting for that part of the work.
Well, then, unless there's anything else we have to add, I guess on behalf of Chaosium and everybody on the Horror Northern Express team, thank you guys, everybody who's watched this and been listening to this, and I am now going to return back to tomorrow is Chaosium Con here in fantastic downtown Ypsilanti, Michigan. So with that, good night to everybody, and I am very excited about Friday.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
also have a great con there, and yeah, we'll be looking what's happened in the last 47 hours now.
Oh yeah.
With that, bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye, thank you very much.